Hudson County View Live and Uncut, and I'm your host. Not always a saint, but rarely a sinner, a guy that's got a mindset of a certified winner, John Heinis, and we're talking Hudson County news, of course, the latest and greatest. Lots of things going on this week as prime time election season for the June 10th primary. So obviously that's a big one. We got governor, we have sheriff, we have state assembly. So on that point, some new developments coming out of the Peninsula City. Now, this is relevant for more than just your usual reasons, given that Mayor Jimmy Davis is challenging Sheriff Frank Scolari. And there was this wild situation where a jury awarded a former employee $500,000 for a hostile work environment case, but then just 2 business days later, the judge in that case actually vacated the jury award completely. So unlike any case that I've seen before in about 14 years, so it's definitely worth discussing that. We're also going to talk about a little bit about November. Of course, November 4th, we have our nonpartisan races in Jersey City and Hoboken. And in the case of former Governor Jim McGreevey, he has his full 9-person council slate announcing his final at-large running mate, and that's a member of the Hudson County Sheriff's Office. We're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on over there. And a lot of endorsements coming out ahead of June. A couple for Ravi Bala and Katie Brennan that we're going to talk about, as well as an endorsement for mayor in Jersey City. And I'll give you a hint that it's not Jim McGreevey this time around. And speaking of mayoral races, as I just mentioned, Hoboken has one at November 4th as well. And today I'm sitting down with one of the 5 candidates, 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos. So all that and a whole lot more right after this word from our sponsors.
No one plans on heart disease, but everyone should have a plan for it. We help patients of all lifestyles and medical histories plan for healthy hearts. We offer convenient screenings without judgment, hundreds of preventive programs, and women's heart specialists. And we're the largest cardiac surgery program in New Jersey. Make plans for a healthy heart with RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Hudson County View Live and Uncut, John Heinis. So let's talk about this whole trial that occurred in Bayonne and the subsequent result, the subsequent decision that happened after that. So again, this is in Hudson County Superior Court. We had a roughly 6-week trial. Well, that was before Hudson County Superior Court Judge Kimberly Espinalis-Maloney. And when it was all said and done on Thursday, the grand jury, which was a 10-person grand jury, a jury, not a grand jury, but the Hudson County jury voted unanimously that this should be a $500,000 award for a hostile work environment for a woman by the name of Sincere Ross. And, it looked like that was the end of days, right? There wasn't really too much else to talk about. We saw that the judge ruled on a motion regarding punitive damages. And in that ruling, she said Ross was not entitled to them, which is not uncommon here in New Jersey. Very rarely do you see those punitive damages awarded. So with that said, to the surprise of many, on Monday evening, we found out that this was being vacated by Espinalis-Maloney. And this is, again, not something that I'm used to seeing. I can't think of a single time it's happened before. But with that said, let's read a little bit from this 9-page motion of memorandum. So Espinalis-Maloney said the following: as a preliminary matter, the court did not rule on defendant City of Bayonne's motion for a directed verdict as to the hostile work environment and retaliation claims, but rather reserved because the court felt that, at the time was filed, there was no further testimony, and given the length of the case, it was best to allow the jury to deliberate. So that was the logic there as to why they waited until after the jury. And remember, this lawsuit was pretty old. December 6, 2019 was the day it was filed. The main charge there that myself and others highlighted was, this is a quote, a sexually charged hostile work environment and a culture of sex within the workplace. So, according to the judge, though, those claims don't meet any of the parameters under the New Jersey law against discrimination. So there's a lot here, and I'm not going to dive into all the little specifics, but I will just mention that at the end, she says, the court finds that even when giving plaintiff the benefit of all inferences, there was no competent evidence in this trial record to show that Ms. Ross faced conduct that was severe and pervasive to make a reasonable black employee believe that the conditions of her employment were altered and hostile or abusive to otherwise survive this motion. So again, a very unusual, unexpected turn of events here. Obviously, this is going to end up in appeal, but we're probably not going to hear a thing about that for a while. The appellate court heard it before 2027. I would be surprised. So moving on, talking a little about the Mile Square City, the Hudson County Palestinian Solidarity Group, NJ Peace Action and Ceasefire Now, NJ, will protest the Israel Independence Day Family Festival hosted by the Israel American Council at Hoboken's Louis T.M. Taglieri Jr. Stadium on Sunday. So that is obviously something that we've seen a lot of. I mean, of course, the last Jersey City Council meeting, you saw someone thrown out in the midst of, and arrested actually, not just thrown out, in the midst of their Palestinian flag raising upcoming, and they just had that Israeli flag raising last week. So I spoke to Emily Wirt, and she's a Hoboken resident and the member of Ceasefire Now, NJ, and she noted that over 100 residents sent emails to the Board of Ed and the Office of the Superintendent urging them to cancel the approval. They said this goes against the district's guidelines, and she says, quote, that the letters were roundly ignored. And the protest is going to move forward now. That's going to start at about 10:40 for an event that's 11 a.m. through 2 p.m. on Sunday. The Board of Education told me in response that they regularly consider and approve applications from community-based groups to use our school facilities. The approval issued by the board to use the facility is just that. It does not imply that the Board of Education sponsors the event, nor is it an endorsement of the event or its sponsors. And they went on to say that essentially anyone that meets the parameters and fills out their use of facilities form can do so. So an interesting turn of events. Obviously, both events are still happening. And if you guys remember Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala, who's an assembly candidate at LD 32, he's had a flag raising in November at City Hall, and at that point he said, I would never cancel the people of Palestine. So worth mentioning that as well. There's a whole lot more we're going to go through, but before we do, I'm going to sit down with Hoboken 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos, a candidate for mayor, right after this word from our sponsors.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Hudson County View live and uncut. John R. Heinis, and as I mentioned a few moments ago, today my guest is Hoboken 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos, who's running for mayor. Ruben, thanks for coming in.
How are you, John? Thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Yep.
So, obviously, this is an interesting race, and you're one of the few candidates that has ran in one citywide. You served council at large. Of course, you've also been able to serve in the state assembly, and you gave a try at mayor in 2013. Didn't work out the way you hoped, but now, a few election cycles later, you're taking another stab at it. Why do you think this is your time?
Let's go back to 2013. If there were runoffs at that time, I think we'd have been more successful in that race. But thankfully, runoffs are back this time around. So I think taking another crack at it, I think we've given a lot to Hoboken. I think our vision for Hoboken is pretty clear. We've been pretty consistent in our positions for the past 25 years in trying to move our city forward, and definitely trying to be constituent-based every single day and trying to grow our city together, which is what I think one of my strengths at any issue in town. I always try to look at both sides of the issues and try and find the common ground for everyone to try and move forward. And I think one of my real strengths is, I think if you looked at the past 10 years when I've been back on the city council, even before that, my first time around on city council, I think a lot of council members and even the mayors at that time always looked to me to try and find a path forward when there was a difficult time through. So I think I've helped a lot of mayors throughout the years try to find their path forward. So I think it's now time to find my path forward and what I can do for the city of Hoboken in the executive level as opposed to the legislative level.
All right, fair enough. Now, again, you've got a long career, about a quarter of a century. So, you certainly have experience, but it's still a crowded field. It's still at this moment 5 people, including 3 of your colleagues. you kind of said it, but just to reiterate, well, how do you feel you match up there?
Well, I wouldn't call it a career per se. Public service is something I'm extremely passionate about. It's something I was involved in when I was very young, that my parents taught me. Being involved in your community is something that was important to us and instilled in me when I was a lot younger. That's why I became a school teacher, to try and give back. Not that just because I enjoyed school growing up. I wanted to give back a certain skill set that I had, and what learning and developing those future minds means to me as an individual, and what my teachers did for me. I wanted to give back in that aspect. When I first ran for city council back in 1999, there were things that I was seeing as a young individual in town where there was another path forward for that I saw. The mayor wasn't taking the proper path and thinking of the individuals first living in our city, and not putting them in the forefront on decisions that were being made at that time, which is why I decided to run in 1999. And that passion for public service still remains today. So while I've been fortunate to win various elections, to maintain kind of a lengthy service time, but it's about the public service and the passion for me, not building up a career per se, I would say.
All right, point taken for sure. So, Councilman, obviously, when you're thinking about this campaign, like your forte so far has been getting back to basics,
Correct.
right? Quality of life,
Correct.
clean streets, safe streets, recreation programs. Just tell us why that's your approach here.
Listen, like I said earlier, like I never woke up and saying I want to be mayor every day when I was a kid, or even when I was a member of the city council. I just want to give back to our community. But over the past 8-9 years or so, as I'm walking around our community, I see the quality of life diminishing on a daily basis. When I'm walking around, I see dog poop is pretty consistent throughout. It's something basic, but there it is, plain of day. When I walk around our city, I see debris throughout the town. When I walk throughout the city, I see the homeless population along Washington Street. I see the e-delivery riders along Washington Street and other parts of the town, making our sidewalks less safe for people. I see our roads not paved as well as they should be. Not everything requires an engineering report. Sometimes it just requires milling and paving. Sometimes it just requires putting 3, 4, 5 people in a room to find the best path forward, to find the solution for an issue. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about getting things back to basics. I think we focused a lot on headlines and bigger things. While those things are great, but I think we could walk and chew gum at the same time and achieve those great things for the city of Hoboken, like revitalizing our waterfront, reimagining what it looks like around our path station, what Washington Street looks like in the future, what 15th Street looks like in the future, trying to create new indoor recreational facilities, revitalizing the housing authority, which is a passion project of mine, having indoor recreational facilities, some part in Hoboken, I know means a lot to parents and our senior citizens. So those are the things that we could do, but still focusing on those day-to-day things as we move Hoboken forward, making sure our spaces are safe, making sure our streets are clean, and making sure we have a quality of life that we could all enjoy, and getting rid of rats and those types of things throughout our community, where I think it was at the forefront of those issues. But I think that as a legislator, you don't have the day-to-day opportunity to really effectuate that change every single day. But as an executive, you do have an opportunity to make that change every single day. And I'll give you a prime example.
Sure.
I walk into my classroom on September 1st, brand new student sitting in front of me, and I can't sit in front of my desk and just say, okay, guys, here's our work, this is what you're gonna do, and that's it. No, I have to set a culture in my classroom that all my students are gonna prescribe to throughout the school year, where September, October, November, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it, this is the best way I can educate you guys going forward. And I have a strong say in how that operates. So I think I wanna try and set that culture for our city throughout. E-bike riders on our sidewalks annoy me and our residents of Hoboken. I want to set a culture where that's not going to be, that's no longer going to exist in our city. They'll be riding in our streets. They'll be wearing those vests. I want to make sure we have a culture where our streets are clean, where our streets are safe, where our parks are maintained properly and our kids are able to have a good time in our parks. I want to work with the Hoboken Board of Education to try and create new educational opportunities for them, educational facilities for them, like we're doing on 38 Jackson Street, where we couldn't find a 24,000 square foot grocer for that space. So we had to retack. The market was telling us that wasn't going to work. We found a small provider for a smaller market space, and our neighborhood is growing. So we're able to work with the Hoboken Board of Education, that property owner, and the city to find a pre-K space for 3 and 4-year-olds. That's what I bring to the table, and that's what I want to continue to do throughout the city.
You gave us a lot to chew on that one, Councilman.
I have a lot to say, buddy.
Clearly. But, I think it's best safer after the break, so don't go anywhere. Folks, keep watching. We're just going to take a quick word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
There you go.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintodevelopment.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Hudson County View live on a cut. John R. Heinis, and I'm still here with Hoboken 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos, and he's a candidate for mayor. So you just gave us a very comprehensive answer about some of the initiatives you'd like to see enacted and also improved upon. So let's rewind just a few moments here. So you talked about the Hoboken Housing Authority Revitalization Plan. One interesting thing that I'm sure you've noticed is there's been multiple candidates that have come out and say, this is a hallmark of my campaign, a focal point of my campaign. How does that make you feel? What's your reaction to those kind of positions?
Listen, I've been in the fire there for 25 plus years. So I'm glad they were able to join on board to try and make the Housing Authority a priority, because it takes all ships. I think that's what led to the demise of other projects as we move that process forward in the Housing Authority. So again, it goes back to what I said earlier, bringing people on board to try and get things done for our community. It was something that I realized and other people realized we couldn't get done one-on-one. We had to bring other people on board to try and move that boat forward, to try and improve the lives of the residents of the Housing Authority. So my ego isn't big enough to not allow other people to come on board to improve the lives of the residents of the Housing Authority that I care so much about. Because it's not only going to improve their lives, it's going to improve the lives of the neighborhood and Hoboken in general. So I'm glad they came on board to join us in that process, but make no mistake about it, it's something that I've been speaking about for 25 years. It's something that I've been at the forefront of, battling on a day-to-day basis. I'm just glad that we're able to finally get closer to that finish line every single day. But I'm glad that other people were able to join that process with us. And I think that goes to my point of leadership and bringing people on board and showing that my ego isn't big enough not to say, okay, you guys have to stay away because I have to take the credit for this. It is all of us trying to get things done for our residents of the city of Hoboken, whether it's the Housing Authority, whether it's our public schools, whether it's making our parks greater every single day, whether it's repaving our roads. It takes all of us to get that done and sit down in a room to do that. And if that requires me to check my ego at the door to get that done, I will gladly do that. I don't think others would say that. I think others pick up the phone the next day and get extremely upset when people are taking credit for various things. But for me, it's about putting residents in those new houses, in those new homes that makes everyone's lives extremely greater, where they've been struggling living in subpar housing, where I was embarrassed of for some points for them. And I want to work, and I've worked hard every single day trying to get that across the finish line, but I'm glad the mayor and others joined me and understand that was a priority for me, a priority for them, and we're able to move that forward hopefully in the very near future.
Got it. Now, in the past 6 or 7 months, the conversation about public safety in Hoboken has changed considerably, starting with that very unfortunate assault at Church Square Park. And, the table organization was enhanced by 10. Now the administration would like to enhance it. I think that's another 20.
Yep.
And, of course, there was also that big
I think it's more than 20. I think it's 28.
28, okay. And then there was that big PBA contract that was approved a couple months ago. So, when you're looking at all this and evaluating, first things first, what do you think of the new potential expansion of the TO? Are you for or against?
At this current time, I'm not in favor of the expansion of the TO. I think we have 10 out there that haven't hit the streets yet. Let's see where that takes us. I think I was in favor of the police contract because I understand years ago, we had 200 applicants for the job. Recently, we had 9 applicants for the job.
For the whole year?
We had 9 applicants looking to apply to be Hoboken police officers. And that's with removing the residency requirement that's saying anyone in the state of New Jersey could apply to be a Hoboken police officer. And that's the best we could do at that period of time. So it was kind of prudent upon us to try and make a move. What could we do to attract more police officers to keep our city safe in the city of Hoboken? And I think increasing the pay, increasing the salaries was one step in the right direction to try and do that. But also, we have to keep the taxpayers in mind as we do that. And I think there's more effective ways in which we can do that moving forward. And I'm for a much slower approach, and I express this to the police chief, I express it to other council members. Maybe we do 10 this year, 10 next year, in April 1, 2026, 2027, just so we can see where our budget is. We could see where the need is moving forward with that. But I think public safety has always been something that I've been speaking about for a long time. We used to have a precinct in Western Hoboken within the housing authority we just spoke about. That precinct went away. And I think there was always a need for that. I always advocated for that. Where now we're going to have a mobile precinct that's able to not just patrol the western part of the city, but move out through various parts of the city with various events. So public safety is definitely something that I've always championed. I'm a union member, so I definitely see what the Chris Christie's pension benefit cuts back in 2011, 2012. We're seeing where that hurt people now over 12, 13 years later, where I walk into empty classrooms in my school currently. We don't have enough teachers throughout the city of Patterson. I think you walk throughout the state of New Jersey, we don't have enough people joining the teacher profession. I think we have enough people going into public sector working for our municipalities in the state of New Jersey. The federal government, look what's happening to the federal government right now.
Sure.
So I think it's almost as if we went to the other direction where we used to praise and award, saying that, okay, you're not going to get a salary, but the reward for working for public service was really a commitment that we appreciate, and we'll honor you X, Y, and Z way. Well, your health is covered. Your salary's not great, but you're going to have a good pension when you retire. But now all that is like kind of up the air, and people are looking at it today. Is this a career I really want to get into? So that's why I supported the police contract. I think we want to try and attract not just any candidate, but the best candidates. I want to make it a career. So hopefully we're able to get 10 good candidates to fill those spots. They're going through the academy right now, and hopefully our residents will benefit from that. But I'm more of the slower approach to try and grow our public safety division according to while we're looking at our budget at the same time.
So real quick, I mean, we're going to go a little over, but I really wanted to ask you, we'll throw two names at you, and I think you'll get the points. Al Veloci, Brian Crimmins, your thoughts? Two completely unrelated things.
Repeat the names?
Al Veloci and Brian Crimmins.
Al Veloci's my guy. Al Veloci is the newest member to our council team. Really excited to have him on board. Kind of reminds me of myself when I was first starting up. He been involved in public service. He was very young, a valedictorian at Hoboken High School, graduate of Stevens Institute. So Hoboken means a lot to him. And I really enjoyed speaking to him in the last couple of months, getting to know him a lot better. And I think the Hoboken's really going to like him when they see him on the campaign trail. So I'm really looking forward to Al knocking on doors with him and see what he has to do for the city of Hoboken in the near future, because the future's bright for Al Veloci for sure.
Okay. And
the
then
second name?
Brian Crimmins.
Brian Crimmins, FUBAR. Right? I would say FUBAR, how that was handled from beginning to end. I think it's still a process that we're trying to go through. But ultimately, I think we're going to have to make a decision whether we bring him back or not. But that's things we can't discuss, I think, in public at this time. It's still like parts of litigation, non-litigation. But I think that was a FUBAR from the beginning. And I think that's going to come to a head very soon.
Councilman, thanks so much. Best of luck. We'll obviously be talking soon. Appreciate you too. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We still got one more segment. We'll be right back.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View live and uncut, John Heinis. So actually just yesterday we had Hudson County Executive Craig Guy addressing the Board of Commissioners, and he did his annual budget address, and that budget is $713,587,235.10, and across the county that's a 5.59% tax hike. So it would be really surprising if this didn't pass. I'm sure there's at least 6 votes, if not more there. But just to go through it a little bit, you know, there's a few things that I think we could talk about. So, first of all, there's 0 layoffs. Obviously, that's a good thing. Nobody likes layoffs. And of course, every department is fully funded. That's also nice. And, you know, there is some state funding there, which is why Guy thanked Phil Murphy, Senate President Nick Scuteri, and Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin. And he also mentioned the impacts of Donald Trump and his administration. For example, that $1 million EPA grant for the Clean Hudson Initiative was revoked. He mentioned that as well. And he gave a statement after his address that I think kind of brings it all to a head. He said, times are tough. We will work together with the leadership of all our county departments. We will especially need the cooperation and creativity of our constitutional officers. The Trump administration has proposed drastic cuts that will hurt everyone in our community. Now more than ever, we must work together to ensure we can continue serving Hudson County. So the Board of Commissioners will vote on that on Thursday, tomorrow, and that's 6 o'clock. So on top of that, let's get to some electoral politics. Of course, my favorite. So Jim McGreevey, the former governor and now a Jersey City mayoral candidate, just announced this morning that he has his final running mate. That's Hudson County Sheriff's Office Detective Janice Sarmiento, a first-time candidate and a 7-year veteran of the department. And she's running with another, at least former law enforcement member, Jersey City Police Lieutenant Israel Izzy Nieves, and Art House Executive Director Meredith Burns. Those are the three running at large. McGreevey has his full ticket now. In Ward A, you have Brandy Warren. In Ward B, you have Efrain Orleans. You have Councilman Rich Baggiano in Ward C, Catherine Healy from Ward D, Ryan Baylock from Ward E, and finally Gloria Walton from Ward F. So Sarmiento said in a statement, I seek to serve as councilwoman because I want Jersey City to be even better. I remember Jersey City when I was young, where children played safely outside, neighbors and local business owners cared for one another, and our streets were clean. And I remember the joy of visiting arcades, shops, and walking to school with a sense of safety. While Jersey City has experienced significant investment, we have challenges including affordability, the importance of improving our schools, providing recreational opportunities, and the necessity for safe and clean streets. So, basically quality of life issues, the basics. And, it's very interesting. McGreevey now the first one to have his full ticket out. So moving on to some other endorsements, I'm going to try to do this about as rapid fire as possible. So in the 32nd Legislative District for Assembly, Climate Cabinet Action, name kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, they care a lot about climate change. They endorsed Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala and Jersey City activist Katie Brennan. And also of note, they endorsed James Solomon, of course, the Ward E councilman in Jersey City for mayor. So those two things are relevant because just before that, you saw 3 of Solomon's council candidates endorse Bala and Brennan for assembly, perhaps signaling that that's a race he's going to get involved with. Of course, we have no official word as of yet, but those 3 that endorsed were Michael Griffin, who's running at large, Elena Little, who's running in Ward E, and we also heard from the Ward D candidate for Solomon, that's Veronica Akazua. And it's interesting because she's in the race for Ward D, and of course you have Ward D Councilman Yusuf Saleh also running for Assembly. So it's interesting that they decided to get involved when they did. So we're obviously going to keep an eye on Councilman Solomon and see what he does in the coming days and weeks. Maybe he sits it out, maybe not. So we also heard another endorsement where LUNA, of course, that's the Laborers International Union of North America, endorsed all the HCDO's assembly candidates. So at 31, it's Assemblyman Will Sampson and Hudson County Commissioner Jerry Walker. At 32, that's Jenny Poo and Crystal Fonseca. And at 33, that's Gabe Rodriguez and Larry Weinstein, of course, Rodriguez being the Assemblyman as well. And a couple other things very quickly. Rep. Menendez, that's Congressman Menendez, of course. He is one of 3 sponsoring a bill seeking a non-essential helicopter ban. So that's something that's popular in Journal Square and the Heights and Hoboken. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that this was the first time we saw U.S. Representative Mikey Sherrill, of course represents the 11th District, bring the fight to Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, who is shown to be gaining on her in recent polls. So Sherrill, for governor, campaign spokesman Sean Higgins said poor Stephen Fulop for more than 2 years. He's run a campaign desperately trying to rebrand himself as a reformer, spending millions and barely making headway. Now it's all starting to unravel. His long history of corruption is catching up with him. With that, folks, we've basically hit our time already. It's been a crazy week. I'm sure the next one will be too. We'll see you then.